You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
Welcome back to the show. I attended the Action Plan for Jobs update in Waterford last Monday. After the event, I had the opportunity to interview the Minister for Jobs, Richard Bruton, and the Minister for Social Protection, Joan Burton. With over 330 action points in the Action Plan for Jobs, I started by asking Richard Bruton, was it just a case of quantity over quality? And this is what he had to say.
No, I think what we have sought to do here is to look at a broad range of issues like, say, access to finance, the ability of employers to recruit, and we've looked at what can you do in those areas. And naturally, if you say access to finance, well, there are people who are in the micro space and we have to accommodate them. There's the people who are in that larger, and so on. So in each area you find that as you're trying to come to grips with the challenges employers have, you have to have a range of interventions. But the big themes are there. You know, it's about access to finance, easier to find markets, and we built that up in degrees, making Ireland a good place to do business. Those are the key themes, and I think we are delivering, but a lot more to do. That's okay. Just
in the Action Plan for Jobs, there's 333 initiatives, as we say. Is there any couple or few that have worked quite well over the last 18 months for you?
Well, I think microfinance is a new initiative where small startups, and you heard it here today, people who have got the maximum 25,000 through the Waterford Enterprise Board, they've been able to start a business successfully, take people off the dole. That's a really exciting. It's starting to take hold, and we want to promote that on a wider basis. So through the enterprise network of the counties, we'll be promoting that. But I think there's a huge range of initiatives. Like, for example, if we can get better connection between our multinationals and our domestic companies, we reckon we can find 500 million of additional business for Irish companies.
What's been done to do that?
Well, we've brought both Enterprise Ireland and IDA together, and they're taking companies who are, if you like, close to the standard that would be needed to access the supply chains of multinationals and working with them to get into that chain. So it's about lifting the standards of Irish companies, but also getting companies, often US based, to sit down with companies and give them the time to get the opportunity to pitch for the business. So you have to, it's a bit like running a trade mission, only in that case the trade mission is bringing companies to established companies who are already operating in Ireland.
The elephant in the room is still commercial rates. Is there anything in the Action Plan for Jobs to resolve that major issue for SME business owners across the country?
Well, commercial rates have been coming down in the last couple of years in most local authorities. Now, the issue here in Waterford at the moment is much more around the revaluation, and that's about, if you like, a different share out of the rate burden, where some businesses are going to win and others might lose out. And that's an issue that's very live here. But clearly, local authorities are also trying to become more efficient, and that's been reflected in some reductions in rates in the recent years.
My final question for you is in relation to the employment investment incentive. What's that about?
Well, the employment investment incentive is a tax break for companies. There's two sides to it. If you're a startup, first-time business setting up a company, you can get 6 years of your previous PAYE tax back to put into your company. But also there's a scheme whereby investors can help a company to grow. So you can get a group of investors together and they will get tax relief if they put money into a company that can grow and build jobs. So they're both tax reliefs, one aimed at the startup and one aimed at a more mature company.
I'm joined now by Minister Joan Burton. Good evening, Joan. How are you?
I'm delighted to be here in the Southeast, and we've actually chosen to launch the Jobs Plus initiative in the Southeast for two reasons. First of all, people will recall that the former company called TalkTalk, it's leaving the country and leaving hundreds of people unemployed was a huge blow, not just to Waterford but to the whole of the Southeast region. And we're here today in HTEC launching the Jobs Plus because it's basically a subvention, a direct cashback grant by my department to employers who take anybody who's more than 1 year on the live register off the live register. We give them $7,500 paid monthly over a 2-year period. That's worth about €300 plus a month to an employer. If they take somebody more than 2 years unemployed, it's worth over €400 a month over the 2 years to the employer. And we've done that because we've worked, my department has worked really closely with Age Tech to help with the recruitment of several hundred of their employees. In Waterford, they now employ, I think, around 400 people, and I think they're employing up to 100 people in Wexford, and they hope to increase that very significantly in the near future.
That's certainly a great initiative. Now, there's a number of areas that I'd like to talk to you about this evening that are affecting business people across the South East. Let me start by talking about the black economy. The construction sector is still host to an awful lot of employment across the South East, and lots of construction industry business owners are telling me that they're affected very much so by the black economy. What's your department doing to combat that?
Well, we are collaborating very closely with the Gardaí, the Revenue Commissioners and the Customs people. And really, I would ask business people if they have an example of what they feel is an abuse or a fraud of the social welfare system, if they would contact the department. We have phone lines, they can send us an email, they can send us a letter. If they feel there are issues about identifying themselves, if they give us enough information, we will take the data and look at it. I've also this year set up a special investigation unit, for instance, in relation to building schools around the country to ensure that the people who are on the sites are properly registered for tax and insurance. And that inquiry, in conjunction with the Department of Education, is ongoing as we speak. We reckon in the Department of Social Protection that we lose something like 92 million a year through fraud, through incorrect payments, through people claiming improperly, and some of it through honest mistakes. Last year and this year I've taken new powers in law to allow the Department of Social Protection to recover those payments at up to 15% per week of the person's social welfare or their employment income if they're working and no longer on social welfare. I've done this because that's a big amount of money in terms of the overall savings the Department of Social Protection has made, but because it's treating honest employers, honest employees who are paying their taxes and who want to compete in a fair economy.
Now, the JobBridge initiative is certainly a great one. 6,500 people have got involved so far. Have you been happy or disappointed with that result?
Well, the total number of people who are now on JobBridge is around currently 6,000. But as we speak, about 12,000 people have actually completed a JobBridge. So the number of people who participated is about 18,000, of whom 6,000 are still doing their internship. The results from the scheme, and it's not a scheme that's for everybody, the results from the scheme have been really positive. Lots of small and medium-sized employers and startups have given younger people an opportunity who've really come perhaps out of college, out of school. They want to work, but they don't have any experience, and JobBridge has given them really vital experience. So I want to say to business people and employers in the South East, thank you for all of the people you've given a chance on JobBridge. I meet them and their parents every day of the week, and they say this scheme really helped me to get going. A huge number of people who go on JobBridge, they're so good they get kept on by the employer, and the employer makes the job for them. In other cases, because they've been working, it's a really good thing to have on their CV, and we find that they subsequently get employment. Indicon, the international consultants, did a special study for us, and 5 months after doing a JobBridge internship, something like 60% of people were in employment, and that's a very promising outcome.
Almost 50% of the youth across the South East are unemployed today. What's the department doing with a view to combating that specific problem?
Well, one of the things I prioritised as chairing during the Irish presidency, just recently finished, as people know, I prioritised as the goal for my department was to get a youth guarantee, a youth employment framework implemented right across the EU. I invited my counterparts, employment ministers, social welfare ministers, to meet me in Dublin early last February. I'm happy to say that I got agreement on a youth guarantee. That guarantee is going to start to be implemented in Ireland and the other 27 EU countries from the 1st of January next. Last week I went with the Taoiseach to Germany to meet Mrs. Merkel, who chaired a conference of Prime Ministers and Employment Ministers. And currently we're waiting and looking at ideas on how to give young people out of work for more than 4 months a good opportunity in terms of it could be continuing their education, it could be doing a traineeship or an apprenticeship, it could be work experience or interning, and most of all it could be simply helping them through a scheme like Jobs Plus. Say somebody who's 23-year-old who hasn't been working maybe for a year or two, somebody would take them on because they're going to get the cash back of $7,500 for someone who's not working for more than a year, $10,000 for somebody not working for more than 2 years. And so in a variety of mechanisms, we're going to help them and we're going to help employers to take them on.
One of the big threats facing people today that are unemployed and thinking about becoming self-employed is that the risk, if it doesn't work out for them, that they'll be left in a situation where they won't be entitled to job seekers benefit or allowance. Has anything been done to address that problem?
Well, what we've done is we have introduced a number of flexibilities where if people, say for instance, they're in business and the business really just doesn't work out at all, they will already have contact with social welfare offices. We've a lot of people on the Back to Work enterprise scheme. We fund an awful lot of people to go back to education. And if in the early stages it doesn't work out for them, we now have additional flexibility to help them. In the long run, though, what we're doing is the advisory group on tax and social welfare is looking at how people who are self-employed are treated in the social welfare system. They, as you know, just pay a reduced contribution of 4% personal contribution. That's just enough to pay for their retirement pension entitlements and things like widowers and widowers' pensions. But if we could reach a reform that would bring them slowly but surely into coverage, that would be very helpful. But of course they would have to cover a lot of the cost, and at the moment that's probably an additional cost that a lot of self-employed people would say, look, I want to get my business going first and perhaps then I'll look at it.
Both of these interviews were recorded at the Action Plan for Jobs update last Monday evening in Waterford, which was attended by over 80 business owners. I would encourage all business owners across the county to attend these events, as they provide a platform for you to voice your concerns or challenges in business directly to government ministers and help shape future government policy. Lots of great points were made by the business community on the night, which ranged from issues such as cabotage facing the haulage industry to how government should unbundle tenders to reduce the value so that local service providers can meet the criteria for tendering.
You're listening to South East Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.